motherfucker, another red light. Oh, it's green now. Okay, hang tight. Look, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess you guys are pretty smart, and you could put 2 and 2 together by the title of this video that yes, I'm no longer an employee at Hoonigan. It's a very weird thing to think about after 6, 7 years, right? Being dedicated to that one thing. God damn, Cybertrucks look ugly. Anyway, here's the deal. So many guys were asking questions, DMs and comments on whether it's my posts or other people's posts or videos, that I felt there was a need to make this video. And you know what? I'm actually really happy that so many of you guys were commenting and just asking and kind of basically forcing me into this, because it lit a fire under my ass that I haven't had in a really long time. And it's really encouraged me to create again. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you why I'm leaving and all that stuff. We'll take a little trip down memory lane. Then, you know what? I'm really excited to tell you guys what I've got set up for the future, some things that I think you guys are really gonna like. And if you don't like it, who cares? I'll still have fun. I'm gonna get to break some cars in the process. So, let's get into it. By the way, if you want to skip through any of this, I'll break up the video in sections so that, you know, you can just get to the part that you really want to know. Or stick around, hang out, enjoy this trip down memory lane. Let's go, baby. Okay. All right, folks, if we're gonna tell a story properly, we gotta take a step back a little bit further to a little show that I was doing called NARPM. Now, that was with my buddy Mike Tornabenny, who some of y'all know as Dom Mazzetti. You wanna dance with Dom Mazzetti, my buddy? We were doing our car show, NARPM, and wound up stopping by the Hoonigan garage to do some donuts because Mike had a McLaren at the time. As it turned out, when we went over there, found out that Brian and Ken Block, Brian Scotto, used to actually watch Dom Mazzetti versus Mike's old YouTube show back on the WRC circuit days. So we all hit it off really well, had a good time. Mike let Hurt rip some donuts in his McLaren.
McLarens do donuts.
And we shotgunned some energy drinks. We had a blast. So fast forward a couple months, Hoonigan starts doing daily content. We actually come back and do episode, I think, number 7 of Daily Transmission, where we were basically shotgunning beers and riding motorized coolers around in some sort of course that we set up at the donut garage. Not long after that, Mike and I were gonna have to close up shop on NARPM. It's getting just crazy expensive to try to operate a car show, and most of that was coming out of Mike's pocket.
The brilliant businessman that I am was like, you guys have a deal, pal. Made me go bankrupt every time I try to do it.
When we were gonna be closing up shop on RPM, I had went to see Brian and offered my services.
So as I'm sitting here editing this video, I just realized I totally forgot about a really important part of the story here. So right around this same time, somebody thought it was a good idea to give Mike and I a brand new, basically pre-production model Can-Am Maverick X3. What happened about 3 hours after receiving it was I rolled it over doing like 80-something miles an hour. Pretty much totaled the thing.
It's good.
So after some heated arguments on the phone and some very select words, we became friends again. And then I went in for this interview.
When I went to my meeting with Brian, I was told to wait outside the big trailer where his office was. And I waited there. And I waited. Pretty sure I waited about 4 hours. And then I remember him coming out of the trailer and be like, oh shit, what are you doing here? And I was like, you set this meeting up. And in his defense, you know, he was juggling a billion things. We actually got a chance to talk, and I explained that I was an editor, that I was editing basically all the RPM stuff, and you know, knew how to do the back end, not only just being on camera. So he decided to give me a shot. So he told me to go talk with Teague, who was the director of original content at the time. After introducing myself, Teague handed me a hard drive and said, here's some footage, make an episode. Just watch some of the YouTube episodes, you'll figure it out. It was basically like a throw you to the wolves kind of thing, and wound up getting the job, and you know, so I started as an editor. You know, in the early days of Hoonigan, there weren't very many rules at all. The one rule was that you had to have a camera rolling anytime you planned on doing anything stupid, right? So, you know, you could go out and just go and wreck your car in the yard, or like routinely pull my motorcycle into the office and like rip a burnout up against somebody's desk. And it was fine, as long as there was a camera rolling, because it was all about how do you make something entertaining for the people. That was a special place in time, right? Because everybody that worked there was down for the cause. Even people in like accounting or people that were doing product design, right? They were all just about that life. I can't tell you how many times we did something so reckless or was setting something up where we're like, this is probably gonna be the end of the company right now. Convinced tons of people to jump their streetcars over ramps. Jump off the dock. Manline became basically the gold standard, where if you were gonna come and film an episode of Daily Transmission, you had to link Manline down and back. And, you know, sometimes in the shop too, you know, like how can you elevate it, right? Just sketchy shit. The police and fire department were there so frequently. We would have helicopters over the shop because everybody's car like sitting on two-step backfiring. Fire departments showing up because there's a Nagasaki-sized mushroom cloud of smoke coming from the building, and it looks like there's a block-sized structure fire going on. You know, that's what made it great, because it was so fucking reckless. I'm gonna hold this tiny little microphone here because I'm pretty sure that the audio quality is much better. So look, one of the super fun things about working at Hoonigan at that period of time was that utter chaos and reckless abandon and zero regard for personal safety was kind of like the benchmark. And I think that created a really interesting culture. In those early days, we would work endless hours trying to, you know, figure stuff out or make cooler stuff. And we always found that sometimes in those really late night hours, you start coming up with like the wildest stuff.
Oh my God! I did not realize my computer equipment was behind me.
People that are like core fans that watched Daily Transmission tangents, like the early tangents, you know, some of those episodes were like, the way they were cut is like completely insane. Some of the weird things that were inserted into episodes as jokes or like ways to poke fun at the fact that something had gone catastrophically wrong or whatever. Like it always came from like the really late nights editing. But we would all sit there and just try to figure it out and, you know, and be innovative in this space that was consistently growing at a rapid pace. It was fun, it was reckless, it was a party. It was hard ass work too though. You know, but that's what made it great. Another thing I loved about working at Hoonigan those days was that there was a constant encouragement to do new things. So for instance, like when I first started working there, I only rode motorcycles. Like I did not want a car. Early on, I started doing my own build stuff, but I did it on a Harley Davidson, my Dyna that I have. I used it as kind of like a proving grounds because it's always something that I wanted to do. Like I always looked up to guys like Stacy David because he made you feel like you could do anything. And so I always wanted to try it. Even though Hoonigan was like a 4-wheel company, Brian was like, look, you know, you can try your hand at it. If you could get some sponsors on board and like build your own stuff, you just have to do it after work, right? Like can't just like do it during the day. You gotta edit, you gotta do all this other shit. After work, I would end at like 11 p.m. and I'd start wrenching on my bike and filming it and figuring out ways to like, you know, film the whole thing, tell the story, and do it in a way that was concise and, you know, entertaining. And once that hit, Brian saw something where he was like, hey, like, that's the first time you've really been you on camera. Because typically before that, you know, I was just the hype man, right? Like I would just come in, yell a bunch of shit, try to get somebody to crash their car. You know, that's it, right? Like wasn't really like a lead role player, a seasoning as they called it. After that, you know, he's like, hey, like this is really your space. The bike shit's cool, but you have to build a car. Build something with 4 wheels and try it. And I'd never done something like that before. And the whole crew kind of like rallied around me to encourage me to build something. And eventually that's where my C10 Boomhauer came from. They championed me the whole way to make me feel like I could do it. Even though I had no fucking clue what I was doing, but we figured it out
and figured it out basically on camera. And over the course of 6-7 months, we built that truck. We would work our day jobs, and then at night we would start wrenching. People would slowly start gravitating from the office into the garage, and the place would be like a big hangout. It'd be a party. You know, somebody would be wrenching on their car in one bay, and then somebody would be, you know, wrenching on something on the dock, and then, you know, somebody building something in the other bay. After work, we just didn't want to go home. Like, that was like our hangout. So we had this like clubhouse that we could build stupid shit at. That kind of camaraderie was really rad. And I think that it helped to create something really special, which, you know, I think all you guys could see on camera. It spawned a lot of creativity, and that was a beautiful thing. I miss it. I miss it. I miss it a ton. By working at Hoonigan, not only did I, you know, have gainful employment, I learned how to be better on camera, how to, you know, create storylines, but I also learned how to fucking build cars, right? I mean, I learned how to assemble some things, put them together like Legos, okay? I'm not like some phenomenal builder, but I've thrown some shit together that was kind of cool, and you know what? It worked. There's no better feeling than to struggle through something for months on end and then finally get to like reap the rewards of all of your work with a monster burnout. One of the other things that I think Vinny commented on this in his video, and it's really worth noting that, you know, whenever we were presented with a challenge, like some sort of epic catastrophe would happen, we'd always figure out a way around it to actually make success from it, right? You know, when we lost the Long Beach location, we couldn't film there anymore. And it was after the Australians came and basically put the last nail in the coffin with a day-long absolute shred session inside the shop, outside of the shop. Just absolutely wild. Cranky, Brasher, this year's Summer Nats champion, finally, my boy Lynchy, just putting on a fucking clinic. But when we lost that shop and we couldn't film there anymore, we had to figure out a new solution, and that solution became Irwindale Speedway. Enter the BURNYARD. And we built that out, and I feel like that became such a big thing. It wasn't as cool for filming because it was so big, right? Like, it didn't have the same vibe as like people just coming to our shop and like throwing down in our shitty little yard. But man, the live events were f***ing nuts. The first live event we did, I remember feeling like it was gonna be a massive failure because it was like the one day it decided to rain. And so many people showed up, and that place was packed, standing room only, just absolutely packed for 10 straight hours of people doing basically no smoke skids in the rain, right? But it was like people just stayed there, and we just kept it going. We kept the music up, we kept the party going until I think it was like midnight by the time we had to like literally had to shut it down. We're like, okay, we can't just keep doing this, right? By the time we did the next show, we got the grandstands, and we would pack those out. And every single show consecutively after that was completely sold out. The very last one that we did, Ken came, brought the Hoonicorn out. We're releasing the Troy Lee Designs livery on Kazi version 2. Myself, Corey the Boss Hosford, and Brian Scotto opened the show, 3 wide in my C10. And yeah, that show banged. I'm pretty sure that show sold out within an hour or two. That was a wild show. The BURNYARD shows, my absolute favorite thing that I've done over the course of my entire career at Hoonigan. There's no feeling like being able to see all of you guys f***ing stoked and feel the energy of a gigantic crowd. Because when you make YouTube videos, right, we're sitting here talking to a camera. You don't know what somebody's thinking. You know, you can't like feel, you can't see the audience. You can't feel the energy, right? But man, when you got a couple thousand people yelling back at you, getting pumped, that's what it's all about. I love that shit. So yeah. This was long-winded. So I guess I should get around to telling you guys why I decided to leave. So here it is. At the end of the day, the thing that drives me the most, that energizes me, keeps me feeling any sort of youthful, keeps me just happy, is creating. And I need to do more of that. When I look back at my life, 10 years ago or so, I remember I was in a very similar place. Oddly enough, I was doing sales at a beverage company. I wound up having an epiphany that I wasn't truly happy because I wasn't creating enough. I'd kind of abandoned most of my creativity kind of for the almighty dollar. So now, 10 years later, here we are again. It's kind of come full circle where I went from doing nothing but creating every day, spending endless hours just trying to figure out how to edit stuff cooler, how to shoot it cooler, how to host better, how to make ridiculous ads that you could laugh at instead of just being forced to watch a stupid commercial, right? And then that evolved somehow back into sales, and here we are again. And the realization that now, the last year or so of my life, most of my days were filled with back-to-back meetings, sales calls, pitching stuff, making decks, doing more corporate office type shit, right? Which isn't bad, but for me, I don't think it's not exactly what stokes me creatively, and it's not what makes me truly happy. And with realizing that, I need to make a change. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get back to creating. We're gonna get back to having a good time, and you know what? Some of it might suck. It's gonna be really hard. I can already see that. I'm gonna struggle, and I'm probably going to, hate it at times, but that's what it's all about. That's what stokes the fire within me, and so that's what we're gonna pursue. So with that said, got some things to show you.
All right, so we have magically transitioned to the shop here because you know what? It's time to tell you what's coming up, what's coming down the pipeline, what's going next. Well, first of all, let me tell you something. I hate the look of this, okay? But somebody's playing music next door and there's an alarm going off and it needs to be close to me, but it looks stupid as f. Let me just address that first. Here's what's going on. Burnout Wars, baby. Burnout Wars is a competitive burnout showcase that myself, Zach Pennick, and Lacey Blair decided that, you know what? The people need it, okay? And here's where it differs, okay? Big ass cash prizes, baby, and a whole lot less rules.
But I wanted to do hood rat stuff for my friends.
Now, what do I mean by big cash prizes? $20,000 winner take all for the pro class.
Hold up.
Also, there's the bro class, which is a $5,000 award, okay? Winner take all. Here's the deal. You come, you run it, you burn it to the ground, you kick some ass, you have a good time, you win some cash, okay? Easy stuff. If you want more info on that, you go to burnoutwars.com or go on Instagram, Facebook, Burnout Wars. Look it up. You'll figure it out, okay? So that's number one, Burnout Wars. Really stoked about that. Your boy's got his own contest finally. Okay. Number two, we're getting Waylon back on the dang road and ripping. Now, this thing was extra spicy. It was actually terrifying, not gonna lie. But had some problems occur, which were mostly from myself. I broke something. But I'm gonna give you a whole video on that. We're gonna break it down, we're gonna pull everything apart, and we're gonna figure out how it broke and how not to set stuff up, and then we're gonna fix it, and then we're gonna get ripping again. So that's number two. Number three, we're doing all sorts of other content with a lot of fun, cool people, okay? We're gonna do firearms. We're gonna do boat shit. We're getting back to the fun, we're getting back to creating, we're getting back to having a good time. So, I hope that you guys wanna follow along. If you don't, well, fuck it, do your thing. I get it, people are busy. But if you do, I appreciate you. Do the subscribe thing, you can like it, you can comment. Even if that comment is, Zach, you're an idiot, doesn't matter. So, let's ride, baby.